USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another, and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
I haven't changed my name. It's still George Holmes.
How old are you, George?
I'm 96. I served October 1946 to October 1948. And the Army, U.S. Army, Army of Occupation in Germany. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but now I'm living in Sebastian, Florida. It's a lot warmer here. I was born in 1928 in Melrose, Massachusetts. The same year as Walt Disney came out with Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse got all the fame and I got nothing.
But now we're going to make sure you're famous.
The World War II started in 1941 when Pearl Harbor, and I was still in school at that time. I wanted to join up, but Mom says, no, not until you graduated high school. So that's what I did. As soon as I graduated, I enlisted, but the war officially had been ended, although they gave me a World War II medal. I ended up in Germany, I thought, and I became part of the Army of Occupation over there. I wanted to do whatever I could, even though the war had essentially ended. And I joined up, and also they had the GI Bill of Rights, and I wanted to use that to further my education.
Where did you sign up at? In Boston?
In Boston, it was Fort Banks, which is in Winthrop, which is just outside of Boston. It's considered. So that's where I signed up, and where I started my career in the Army, which wasn't too long.
Why did you decide Army versus Navy?
Well, to be truthful with you, I wasn't a very good swimmer. I couldn't swim. I figured if you're in the Navy, you should at least be able to swim. And I said, no, Army's fine with me. I was pretty much by myself. And the thing is, I went and they had me go right in, and I thought I was going in and taking my basic training, and they says, no, you got to work in the separation center because we have so many that had been in the service coming out, so I had to work on the musters to get them out and on their way. And funny, the first person that came through was my cousin, who had been in the service. I was a little surprised on what they wanted me to do. We had a tunnel there, or an enclosed space, where you would speak out certain words or numbers. That's what they called the hearing tunnel. And if they couldn't hear you, you'd ask them to step aside and a doctor would check their ears. So that was an easy thing to do. Then they moved me over to be with a dentist, and he would mark down the teeth that were missing or something, and I had a chart of the different teeth, and you had numbers assigned to them. I assume because most of my schooling was on the clerical type, and that's what they needed. I mean, they had doctors, but they didn't want them to be tied up with doing anything on the clerical end. And it lasted, I think, about 3 or 4 months. Then I went and took my boot training.
Where was that at?
Fort Dix, Illinois. Fort Dix, New Jersey, rather. And that was good. They had you go out in the rifle range. I never shot a gun before, and they said, you're a marksman. I had scored high enough, so I couldn't believe it. I said, sure you got the right one? So I was in pretty good shape then, not like now. Okay, this is me. I was happy in one way that they had the boot training, because I think a good majority of the ones that didn't get pushed aside went over to Asia, to Japan, and to Korea area. I much preferred going to Europe. They shipped me out of New Jersey over to Bremerhaven, Germany. I forget the name of the ship now, but the sea was kind of rough then. I think it was January or February when we went over, and this is another reason I didn't go in the Navy. I think I got seasick, and the next thing I knew, we were at Bremerhaven. How do you feel? Well, a lot better than getting off the ship. I'll be fine. Went on a troop train right away, and we went down. At that time, Germany was broken up in 4 parts. We got the southwest, Britain got the northwest, and France got a small slice in there too. And then Russia got everything to the east. Now the bad part about it, from what I hear, Berlin ended up having the 4 breakups of the Allies, but it was Berlin was completely surrounded by Russia, occupied section. They had control of the roads leading inside of Berlin.
Where were you stationed at while you were in?
I was stationed still in Augsburg. And as I say, we were just north of Munich. Garmisch was right down here on the Austrian border. And we had this section here. And Nuremberg is where they had the trials. Trials were going on at that time too. And Goering, they convicted him, and just before he was sentenced to die, he took a pill, I think, a poison pill, and died. I was 47 when I arrived. In 48, I was still over there, that's when, I don't know if you heard of the Berlin airlift, because Russia, as I say, had the controls of the roads into Berlin, and they blocked it to the Allied troops, to the other Allied troops. And the only way we could get food and fuel or whatever was supply it into Tempelhof in Berlin, and most of that was flown out from Hamburg, Germany, into Berlin. But I didn't directly assist on but there was a good portion of our units to get things loaded up, and we did that for about 3 months, I think, and then the Russians, for whatever reason, they were to show off that they had control, did away with the blockade, and things went back to normal. Fusen and Sunhofen is where I took education on dealing with the people of Germany now that I was part of the occupied troops. And of course, the Allies were set up to help the defeated Germans and get them back on the feet on the western section. The eastern section, Germany was into basically two sections. West Germany, where the Allies, where the Western Allies controlled, and East Germany was under the Russian control. Now, grant you, the Russians took the worst beating and lost the most men, I think, in World War II. They dismantled and took anything they could and put it on railroad cars and moved it into Russia out of Germany. So they didn't help at all. They hindered. And we tried to get the Germans back on their feet. Basically, I was classified as a clerk typist. Transfers, furloughs. Some of the soldiers came in and they wanted to get married to a German. There was different forms that they had to fill out, and I worked that type of situation. I worked for headquarters, the headquarters unit. When we went out on maneuvers, to Grafenwald was where we went out and set up tents and so forth. When I was in Augsburg, where I was stationed, we had nice barracks. They belonged to the Germans before, but we had taken them over.
Was the place decimated? What did Germany look like when you got there?
In Augsburg, which is just north of Munich, was bombed quite badly. Buildings were bombed and uninhabitable. But gradually, when I left, it had built itself back up, or with our help, of course. But as I say, on the eastern Germany, it was still in bad shape. I never really got over the eastern part. I did get one trip outside of Grafenwald where we had our maneuvers, and went into France and Belgium and Luxembourg.
Did you go to the Eagle's Nest?
The Eagle's Nest was in Berchtesgaden. I was down in Garmisch-Partensgarten. That's where they had the Winter Olympics. I tried out for baseball, and there was quite a few going, and would you know, they were only selecting 2, and I was one of the 2 they selected. I didn't play too much, but it was great. I had really nothing to do, and I played in the outfield. And they had a pitcher there that I didn't realize until after I got out of the service. Everybody called him the Whip. I don't know if you ever heard, but he was a good pitcher for the Cincinnati. I think you confirmed it.
The Whip.
The Whip, they called him.
So,
because when he put us on.
What was the military part of it like for you? Were you...
The military wasn't bad at all. As I say, I had a desk job. I enjoyed, I did some work on the local newspaper that we distributed. I enjoyed doing that. I was responsible for checking and listing down what movies were being played, because I know that's what I always wanted to check too. And so that was a nice thing to do, over and above the daily tasks of the other typing, and I ran the mimeograph machine too.
So what was your full time in Europe? How long were you in Europe for? 2 years, a year?
I was only in service for a little over 2 years.
Okay. When you were in Germany, how did you feel emotionally about the whole thing?
Well, I could see that the Nazis, Hitler and his group, were really the ones that were in charge and in control. And if you spoke up against them, forget it. So that not only were the Jews exterminated, but any political opponent. We weren't too far from Dachau, which was between Augsburg and Munich. I had some pictures, I couldn't find them, of the cremation. A lot of people don't believe in the Holocaust. I saw how that was made up and so forth. But it wasn't the case.
Did you visit that concentration camp while you were in the service? Did you visit that?
Yeah, because that was right. We went down to Munich quite a bit too. So that was right on the way. They had cleared it up pretty much at that time, but it was there. And it was in German. Work will make you free. On the gate there. They worked them, and then if they didn't have any work for them, they got killed.
So did you feel good that you were trying to do your part in the
Yeah,
service?
I felt that it was good. I'm glad we were there to try to help, rather than like the Russians, kick them while they're down, or whatever.
Well, I thank you for your service to try and do something that was good versus doing less than good. So thank you for your part.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, beautiful.
So, okay.
Victory.
Yep.
V for victory, huh?
I'll be for victory.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna shake your hand.
Okay.
Thank you
Real
very much
good.
for your service.
You did real good.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna take this microphone off you now. Don't move.
Oh,
I
okay.
got your
Very
microphone.
good. Very good.
I get more microphones that way. I walk out with.
Yeah, really? How many do you have?
Okay, thank you.